Hey, hello, folks. What's going on, friends, family, foes, whatever? Hey, how y'all doing? Listen, I wanted to ask you this question. Are you practicing transactional relationship or transformational relationship? All right, transactional relationship or transformational relationship. Simply, let's put it this way: transactional relationships are those kind of relationships that are based off of, for lack of better words, tit for tat. You do something for me, I do something for you. You do something for me, I do something for you. You rub me this way, I rub you that way. All right, and it's all based off of what you can get. They are very individualistic, although another person is involved. All right, it's very much so about you, about me. What am I getting? The benefits that I get from this relationship, and that's happening between both people. And we often wonder, what is this friction in our relationship? Why does this relationship seem to not work? And when I say relationship, I'm not just talking about romantic type of relationship. I'm talking about period. The way we deal with one another as human beings, our relationships as humans. Period. All right, so you can apply this to any area of your relationship. All right, so this whole relationship ready moment or this relationality moment can be applied to any of the relationships that you are in. But is it only at this place where it's about what you benefit, all right, from this relationship? Sometimes we can do things for people and it's really you're doing it for them or towards them, but it's really for you. All right, and then there's the transformational relationships. Transformational relationships, on the other hand, are really more so about getting to the soul and heart of everything. It's really about just simply caring for one another and caring for one another, honoring one another, and really truly wanting to love one another, be loved for one another. All right, and in those types of relationships, so the reason I say that it's about the soul, or it's more soul connected, is because your relationship now begins to be more about the connection that you are making and the message, the overall message of connection, versus just the transaction of duties and actions and different things that we do in order to get our own benefit or to get our own need met. All right, so in those two different types, which one do you practice the most? Here's the reality. All relationships have some level of transactionalness. I'm just making up a word, ship. All relationships have some level of transactionalness ship, all right, to it. All right, there is always this aspect of give and take. There are times where we bounce back and forth into what do I get out of this and this, that, and the other. All right, that's just human. That's just human. That's just moving how we dance between our ego self or our false self and our truest self. Because see, listen, it's the false self ultimately that really is just ego driven, and it's really all about itself. What can it get? What can it get? What can I feed myself to be fat? But that true self, when that true self of you kicks in, it's connected with oneness. It's all about how can this be a win-win situation, and not win-win in terms of this prideful win-win, but a win-win in terms of wisdom and how life is created and how we were designed to be as relational beings. A lot of us get locked into these transactional relationships. It's very tempting, right? Because we always say, I don't want to love nobody more than they love me, and I'm not gonna. So then we go tit for tat. We have phrases like equal or what do you call it, 50-50, and all of those phrases. And nothing wrong with these things inherently, but sometimes we get locked in some of the poison of some of that stuff and some of those things. But we got to ask ourselves, when we're always questioning and we're wondering why our relationships don't work, or why do they seem to not be going the way we want them to go, and we have to understand and realize that a lot of people, sometimes ourselves, we're operating under a transactional mode. And when you're operating under a transactional mode, you're pouring into your relationship a certain type of energy. And that certain type of energy is going to yield that same type of mentality. So if you're putting an energy into your relationship that's transactional or selfish, what are you expecting to get back? What are you are you expecting to have a rose garden? I mean, if at best, speaking of gardens, let's say this. Here's another analogy for this. Are you the kind of person that I'm going to bring this person flowers because I want to romance them, right? Or am I going to take them to the garden so they can see how roses grow? or they can see where roses and plants are given life. Same thing with our relationships. You can relate this to yourself. Are you a garden? Are you or a gardener, where you bring this person to a place where you can plant them and give them something to establish themselves in and put roots in so that they can grow and flourish? Or are you just really wanting to have a flower shop where people can come in and shop for the roses? They won't cut them, that is eventually going to die, so that they can look pretty on the table. And that's what a lot of us do in relationships. We want the dozen roses instead of the garden. All right. And that's also what we give. We give the dozen roses in terms of the way we relate, transactional, instead of giving the garden, being the ground for where great relationships can thrive. All right. So when you're operating under transformational relationships, you become the ground, the garden, or the gardener. You become the ground where relationships can thrive. And we have to think about that. You're putting energy now into your relationship that comes from a wisdom, that comes from a sense of oneness, that comes from connection, that comes from divine creation. All right. And even the purpose and providence that relationships were designed to really be. All right. So we got to think about that. All right. And again, we go back and forth, and we mix in sometimes, whatever. And that's just how we do as humans. Whatever, but what you want to set more focus on, or what I would suggest and what I believe and how I sense we should do, and I know this is what I want, is to be more transformational in our relationships versus just to be transactional. All right, transactional relationships are oftentimes based on expectations, because I did this, so I'm expecting you to do something back. But transformational relationships go into the depth of trust, of really truly trusting. And I'm not necessarily keeping tabs. I do what I do, again, because I'm just trying to love you. I'm just trying to care for you. I'm trying to speak to your worth. Transactional relationships speak to deserving. All right, and there's so much error in there. All right, so much area and non-absolutes. Is that a word? I don't know. I make up words all the time. Get over it. All right, but there's so much instability in there. There is risk when you're trying to feel like you're moving to a trusting relationship where it's not based on tit for tat, not based on tabs, not based on me keeping a record or whatever, but just based on the sense of the depth and sense of divine worth and all of those things. There is some risk in that, because people can change their mind, they can hurt you, or things can still not go the way you exactly want them to go. But what you can say is that you poured in the right energy. You poured the right energy into your relationship. You gave the right ground for your relationships to thrive. All right, so that's something to really take into consideration. So just ask yourself that question. Just think about it. Am I more of a transactional relationship person? And I'm going to get what comes with that, all the consequences that come with that, the energy that comes from that. All right? Or am I more of a transformational relationship person? Transformational in how we deal with each other. And being more focused on the connection and the soul and the oneness that already, folks, listen, I'm let you in on the secret. It already exists. Oneness already exists. Those connections already exist. We just sometimes don't see them. We sometimes can't make them because of a lot of times our false self or the ego. It kicks in and it's just looking for its own, what it wants, and it fails to see the bigger picture, and it fails to, and it's busy trying to get. But see, when you tap into the soul, the spirit soul of you that already knows, the spirit soul of you that's already full, the spirit soul of you that already recognizes that all things are one, that we are one in God, that we are one in our relationships with each other. There's nothing to really get and only things to manifest. All right. So what we want to do is move from trying to be in a getting relationship into a manifesting of relationship. This is some good stuff. This is good. I'm preaching to myself, but no, this is some good stuff. So folks, listen, think about that, ponder that, hit me up, talk to me about it. Let's talk about it. Let's find out, because we can probably figure out why so many of our relationships fail. But it's because we're operating under this transactional mode instead of operating under this transformational mode. Being in a relationship to get all of this stuff versus being in a relationship to bring something, to give something, to help one another be our better version of ourselves, to help one another manifest the spirit soul of who we really are. All right, listen, as I always say, I am love for you, and I know it in here, but I hope that you will also be love for me. This is a relationship ready / relationality moment. And I hope that it's been helpful for you. All right, y'all. Peace out of here.